First up, we're going to be taking a look at an angle grinder. It's a very common tool. A lot of people have them in the garage. It has a lot of potential to cause injury if you don't know how to use it or you use it improperly or whatever. Anyway, so the main source of problems comes from this disc here. If it gets caught and jammed up or binded up, it can kind of explode out this direction here. That's why you should always use one of these deflection shields to deflect it away from your moneymaker. Anyway, so we're going to see what happens if all goes wrong with the help of Rescue Randy. Safety first. Wow, this disc is really tough. I shot it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, and didn't even go through some of the times. This disc is bulletproof. Oh well, let's keep trying. Whoa! Honestly, I'm super impressed with these grinding discs. I had to shoot it like 20 or 30 times until it finally broke apart. And I say grinding discs because I have a couple more, so let's try this again. Rescue Randy is one tough son of a gun, and so are those safety goggles. 3 times in a row and they didn't even break. Anyway, I know that it looks like I'm not using a backstop when I'm shooting my BB gun, but don't worry, I'm off to an angle, so the garage wall is my backstop. So yeah, that's why you always keep your angle grinder guard on and in the right position. Not like this where it can hit you in the face, but more something like this. So if it explodes, it doesn't hit you in the face. Anyway, let's move on to the next experiment. For our next safety tip, we're going to be talking about wire brushes on the angle grinder, and this is safer than a grinding disc, sure. The thing about these though is they can throw these little wire bristles on the end of it really fast, and I've had one like an inch long in bed, a half inch into my skin, and I didn't even feel it go in. So definitely have to wear safety goggles when using the wire brushes, and be careful about clothing because it can really latch onto clothing and tear it up. I guess I should also mention before I tear the shirt up that I have a holiday edition of Backyard Scientist t-shirts available on the shop, so go check it out. We're just going to pretend like we're grinding on something on the bench, and then it's going to kick back and hit him in the shirt, and let's see what happens. Woo!
Look at his crop top!
He's been working out, he's trying to show off his abs, but yeah, that would hurt a lot if you had skin. Look how fast it just gets tangled right up in the shirt and gets thrown all around there. I mean, there's really no way to prevent this except for just don't get your shirt tangled in the angle grinder. Maybe a thick denim jacket would help, or maybe I should just use a different type of brush. I'm just scared it's gonna come back and hit me. Yep, there we go. Yeah, that didn't help much either. That type of brush still got wrapped up. It looks painful, but I still wouldn't say that it's a serious injury, at least not compared to the next experiment. Now we're going to be talking about the dangers of a table saw, and there's 2 main dangers here. Obviously, number 1 is the blade. You do not want to stick your finger in the blade because it'll get chopped off. Don't put your hands anywhere near here. That's why you use a push stick to push the wood through the saw without having to get your hands anywhere near the blade. The other thing you have to worry about is called a kickback, and that's what happens when you're cutting a piece of wood and it gets jammed up against the side of the saw blade, and it kicks it back at you at a very high rate of speed. Let me show you what a simulation of a kickback could look like. That looked like it hurt. I know it doesn't look like much on camera, but this thing can launch a piece of wood with some serious force. Let's see how far it can throw a 2x4. That's probably farther than I can throw it.
No, I mean, I'm kind of impressed how far you threw it.
I was really impressed with how far it launched that 2x4, so I wanted to take advantage of the table saw launcher and build something out of it. So this is what I built right here. It is a launcher that is made out of a PVC pipe, duct tape, and a piece of wood clamped to the saw. And basically the saw blade is in here in the middle of it, and I'm going to take this dowel, load it on in here, it'll send it flying through all the way over here, and hopefully it'll go all the way through the watermelon. You think it'll go all the way through?
I definitely think it's gonna go all the way through.
It might not though, because I don't know if you can see this, but I made this dowel into a hollow point. And Tauflader Mouse, if you're watching, please shoot one of these out of a shotgun. I'd love to see it. All right, here we go. Wow. I was really surprised with how fast that thing came out, and the distance between the barrel and the watermelon is 4 feet and 8 inches, and I calculated it, and it is 98 miles an hour coming out of there. Not only did it go clean through the watermelon, that's where it went in, and that's where it came out, but it also totally knocked over our backboard, which is this big piece of sheet metal. Whoa. And it put a pretty serious dent in it right there. Alright, now I sharpened this end of the stick, and I'm going to see if it can go through the sheet metal. Probably not, but worth a try. Oh! This is where we found it, probably a good 50 feet away from the saw, and it's, wow. It was in there pretty good.
Oh, it got in there pretty deep.
Yeah. So that's where I fed it in, and you can see it going through, and then you can see it chop, 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 chop. Whew.
That was scary.
I didn't think it would go through, honestly. The first time it was pretty dull, but this time it's sharp, and yeah, a 2x4 is pretty bad for a kickback, but imagine cutting something that's sharp on the other end, or it breaks, and that could become a real projectile and probably go right through you if the circumstances were right on the table saw. Randy forgot the most important thing about working with the lathe, and that's don't wear anything that can get caught in it, like no ties. If you have a tie, tuck it into your shirt. If you have long hair, tie it up and tie it back, or else you will get sucked right into the lathe. Let me show you what can happen. Uh-oh. Oh, jeez. That didn't look too bad, but that's because Randy was tied into his seat. Now, if it was you, remember that this tie is wrapped around your neck, and you're going to be pulled into the lathe with all these spinning metal bits, and you do not want that to happen.